It's me. It's Beth. It's a new set. Paradox Drive, I believe. Um, there are, I think, 74 new cards. I have kind of looked at them already. I was playing some of the step-up battles at work, but then the internet went down. So I have not looked at every card, but I've looked at most of the cards, and I did do a little lab work on some of the more confusing ones. For people who didn't play Scarlet Violet, in Scarlet there's a bunch of mons from the ancient past, and in Violet there's a bunch from the distant future. And we have that in this set. We have some mons labeled as ancient and some mons labeled as future, and they each have a tool associated with them, and then a supporter associated with them, and then a couple of random Pokemon abilities here and there. Overall, the set looks really cool. I don't think there's much power creep. There's definitely some interesting things. There's no new Mega, notably. We've just got 5 new EX cards, and none of them are Megas. Let's get to it. First off is Surskit. You don't need me to tell you that Surskit's bad, but just in case you're not sure, Surskit is bad. There's nothing particularly notable going on about this card except that it's colorless and it's a bit weaker than normal. And then we also have a colorless Masquerain. Most types can do 70 damage for 2 energies, and often on cards that have 100 HP and that don't have this discarding energy effect. The upside of this card being colorless is kind of pointless because I can't imagine you'd run it on grass, and you definitely wouldn't run it anywhere else. We don't have that many new cards for each type. We've only got 4 new grass cards. Here we've got Brute Bonnet. The rip is not that good. Spirited Smack. Flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. So yeah, if you're running it on a will deck, there are reasons in grass decks to run will, and maybe you could run this as your Oricorio killer. Without will, it's pretty iffy. It's not horrible because Superior means it can attack with 1 energy. Um, you can also power it up with a baby because one of the energies is colorless, so that's also on the table. I don't know if I would ever do that, but it's there. Nothing much to say about this card. So for the gimmick for ancient cards, I should just say now, because we got to keep it in mind while we're looking at them. Ancient cards get a tool that gives them plus 40 HP, which is, quite a lot. Having a 140 HP basic, for example, right now is a pretty big deal. And then they have a supporter that allows you to attach energies to them. Um, Up to 3, but probably typically 1 or 2, depending on your deck construction. Um, anyway, if this thing can activate by having multiple different energies stuck on it, that's kind of good. And if it has 140 HP, that's pretty good. I can't see this thing being used, but it's kind of interesting. Unfortunately, the ancient decks, grass is like one of the maybe less good ways of doing that. That being said, our other card is also an ancient card. Slitherwing, 120 HP, goes to 160 with the tool. This Pokemon does 60 damage to itself. I had to lean in to see it. And 120 damage on 3 energies. That's a hard amount of power to ignore. And then also Superior allows this to attack a little bit sooner. And also... Sorry, 5 a.m. yawn. Also the supporter being able to activate it immediately makes it pretty good. So the attack being self-destructive is annoying, but there's some stuff here that makes it interesting. I'm not going to call it useless. I'm not sure yet. We only have a single new fire card. It's a pretty cool one. It's actually pretty good, I think. The problem is running a bunch of future stuff that powers up future cards. Like you only have a single future mon in fire. So like, are you just supposed to run the future cards in fire? Um, Thermal Gust. You flip 3 coins. If you get 0 heads, it's 10 damage. 1 heads, it's 30. 2 heads, it's 60. And then 3 heads, it's 130. So 60 and 130 are pretty decent damage benchmarks. And then the obvious synergy here is the Victini card that allows you to re-roll your flips if you got bad ones. So this thing has a 1/2 chance of getting 2 or more heads. And I guess that mathematically just goes to a 3/4 chance of getting 2 more heads. 2 or more heads. Um, if you have the Victini option to try again. Um, that's decent power. And 2 energies is very cheap, and fire has an easy time sticking on energies, so, for the future cards, the tool gives them plus 20 damage, and the supporter lets you bench them. Or not bench them, it lets you shuffle them back into the deck. Um, Pretty interesting. Again, you can't run any other future cards very easily with this one. So probably you wouldn't bother with either of those here. But the card is actually decent on its own. I don't think it would really ever be used. Unfortunately, 60 is a good benchmark for like the early game but it's not a good benchmark for killing Oricorio. But, this is just another weapon in the Fire Flippy deck that they've been trying to build up since last set. Psyduck. Cool little gamer fact about Psyduck. It actually, I think, is the most prolific Pokemon in the series. It has been in the greatest total number of games. Something like that. There's Golduck, which presumably shares that stat. It's got Psychic. A lot of mons have this move at different powers and different energy costs. This is one of the cheaper ones. It's also one of the weaker ones, unfortunately. Vaporeon. We got a new Eevee just to have a new Vaporeon, and I think a new Umbreon, and I think a new Espeon. We got like some of them, but not others. This one's pretty interesting. I originally saw it, and I was like, oh, yes, this is really cool. They finally figured it out. So I was like, we got Eevee and EVX and Vaporeon EX, and I'm like, who's the good ally? We need like a Vaporeon or a Glaceon that works well with the new Vaporeon. And I saw this guy, and I was like, oh, yes, the Sabrina effect is really good with the locking retreat effect, because you force them out, and then you trap them in the thing that you brought in. Unfortunately, the Sabrina effect on Vaporeon EX can only be used when it's active, and that thing has a retreat cost of 3. And there's no easy way to switch it out. Like, Leaf isn't enough. Lyra only works if it's hurt, and I think it shuffles you into a random other mon. And then you can't use Big Air Balloon because it's only a stage 1. Like, stuff like that. There's no good way to go from Vaporeon EX to Vaporeon. I thought it was a cool idea, but this card looks just okay. There's other cards that do really similar things. The one that immediately comes to my mind is Houndoom or Crobat. Not Crobat, what the frick? Houndoom or Arbok. But this one has a little bit more HP than them, which is kind of cool. But water typically has a lot of HP. We got a new Weasel and a new Floatzel. For some reason, the energy costs are really high. I guess if you get a couple Misty Heads, it's a pretty good card. Apart from that, I would never run it just because it doesn't have an HP to warrant its high energy cost. We got a new Snom, all-timer right here. Cute little fella. New Frostmoth. It's funny to think that our last Snom, I don't know if it's our last one. I think we've only had one before. It's funny to think it was like a genetic Apex Mon. It was like there from the beginning. Frostmoth, 2 energies for 60 and 100 HP. This is like a bog standard card. This is pack filler. It's not horrible, but you would never run it. Iron Bundle. This is a pretty interesting one. The first of our new EXs. It's 3 energies. Its initial attack does 80 damage and has a guaranteed paralysis. Guaranteed paralysis is really crazy. After that, it's just doing 60 every time. So it checks, if it's not like you have to do the attack that turn, the turn you play it or anything like that, obviously, because it's got a pretty high attack cost. It's just the first attack since you deploy it. And there's another EX that has that same kind of principle in this set. But 60 damage is not great for 3 energies, obviously. But when you consider it's like a guaranteed 80 into a guaranteed 60, or even if you've got the booster energy that powers it up, it's doing 100 into 80. That's pretty powerful. That's almost strong enough to kill a Mega. And not only that, but it's a tool that powers it up. So you've still got your supporter sitting there. So you could play like a Red or like a Giovanni or something like that as well. Pretty good Pokemon. And then you have to consider that you also have that card that there's a supporter, Dr. Turo, Professor Turo, that allows you to shuffle it away back into your deck. So when you do that, you deny the opponent the point if it hit you, and you also allow it to redeploy, which allows you to get that paralysis again. The problem is you have to stick 3 energies on it again. But with such cards as Baxcalibur, that's very feasible. That's it for water. Here we got Pommy, everyone's favorite. Pommo. It's really weak for a stage 1. 20 damage and then 10 damage to one of the opponent's bench Pokemon. This one's kind of cool, the low HP and high damage like a Magnemite, like that one Magnemite everyone likes. Lets you search it for with Lycia. And then the Palma is kind of neat. It's a new paralysis card. 60 damage and then a coin flip for a paralyze. Obviously Will is the card you would consider for this, so you can get the 120. And then what else about it? It's 1 energy cost. So rare candying into it is very powerful. Unfortunately, that 130 HP is pretty bad for a stage 2. The thing about like stage 2s these days, like regular stage 2s, non-EX cards, is that they typically have enough HP that they can live through a lot of the like EX and mega damage benchmarks. But this thing doesn't. This thing just dies. Like you hit this thing with Altaria and it's gone. It's goner. Um, and that's really unfortunate for it. But you know, if you it still has some merit because of its nice damage benchmark and the fact that Rare Candy is so strong with it. It's interesting. Okay, it's probably got some use case. Um, Iron Hands. This is a feature mon, so it could potentially do 20 more damage, and also it can potentially be shuffled back into your deck. These high HP basics are really nice for that Professor Turo. Um, because you can just lead with this, and then like, you know, its 3 retreat cost is ginormous, but like, you know, the opponent probably won't one-shot it, and if they just get some damage on it, while you're sticking energies on your bench mons, you can just play Professor Turo and get it back out. The problem with Turo is that you're re-thickening your deck, which, you know, you've got extra cards you could draw through, which means getting the cards you're looking for is going to be harder. This guy is just Marowak, but 3 energies instead of 2, and you don't have to evolve it, and also it's not an EX. You got 70 damage, 2 flips, 70 damage per hit, which of course goes to 70 damage per hit plus 20 if you have the booster energy. I was using this card for the step-up battles because I was trying to do like 12 new cards, and the electric was the only type I had where I had like 12 new cards at all. And it felt pretty bad, honestly. It's probably not a good card. On the right deck, it might be okay, but of course I was using it with the stupid Palmy line who has no synergy with it, other than the fact that these are low energy and this is high energy. Iron Thorns, another relatively high energy basic that can be shuffled back into your deck with Professor Turo. Binary Thunder, if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, this does 40 more damage. Obviously, that stacks on with something like Red. Or your tool, your little tool. So this is 60 damage for 2 energies, which is pretty decent. You know, you could do that as early as turn 3 with energy elemental switch plus their aura or something like that, or Pichu. Um, and then 100 damage potentially, you know, with the booster energy on an EX target. That's pretty good. Unfortunately, any EX target is going to live through 1 hit from this thing, but you know, it's still got a decent amount of HP and it activates relatively quickly, so I think there's some merit here. Um, one thing I haven't been thinking about is that there's a psychic card. Where are we? What future mons have we seen? There's Iron Valiant lowers the energy cost of future mons by 1 colorless. I forgot to mention that. So this can attack for 1 fire energy if you have an Iron Valiant. Unfortunately, Iron Valiant itself needs psychic energy, so you would only be running it for its ability if you're using it in other deck types. But Iron Moth attacking for 1 energy is pretty crazy. Um, what else? What future mons have we had? Iron Bundle attacking for 2 energies is pretty crazy. Stuff like that. And then this guy attacking for 2 energies is pretty good. Unfortunately, it doesn't stack with this one. Here's Miraidon. This one's kind of funny because of the way it kind of ignores that Iron Valiant. This is very similar to the Caridon we'll be looking at later. When you play it, you can choose to move it instantly to the active spot, and that also takes every energy from your whole field and puts it onto this. And that does a lot of really crazy things that you wouldn't immediately think of. First of all, even if your lead mon is like asleep or paralyzed or something like that, this just comes in and moves to the front. So it's like a forced switch. So you can get out of the field even if you've got a status. Not only that, but it puts all the energies on itself. But if it then gets hurt, you can then play the other Miraidon and put all the energies on this one onto that one. And then, you know, also get that one to the front at the same time. You can also choose not to do it, but I think you would pretty much always do it. It's hard to imagine a scenario where you'd play this and you wouldn't have it activate its ability. The annoying thing about it is that it's not good if you start with it. If it's like the only card in your hand when you start the game, being forced to play it, it's got 2 retreat cost and it needs 3 energies to attack. So that's very slow. But of course, you can always just play Professor Turo to get it out of the active spot. This is a very good EX in my opinion. As for the attack, it's 20 damage for each lightning energy attached to it. So theoretically, if you have 2 Iron Valiants on the field, you could attack for 1 energy. But the problem is it's doing 40 damage for 1 lightning energy in that instance. The Step Up Battle uses it with, what's it called? Magneton. And not only that, but it has obvious synergy with like cards like a Electric Generator. You know, anything to get extra electric energies onto the field so this guy can just steal them all. The HP is not great, but the power can be decent. It can also just be bad. Like what if you got 3 energies on it, which is like the air quotes bare minimum, you're doing 80 damage, which 80 damage for 3 energies is not good at all. But if you consider like the free switch in, getting something out of the field, and then also like this thing's versatility, makes it a lot better. Oh, and then also you have the booster energy to power it up because it is a future mon. It's a good card. There's a lot to say about it. This is one of the most complex cards they've added for a while. Espeon puts the opponent to sleep. I would rather run like any of the other Espeons than this one. It's there. It exists. We got Flittle. It's got a paralysis chance. 40 HP is abysmal. And then we've got Espathra, one of my all-time favorites. It's got its signature move from the games, and the effect is kind of similar. It's 50 damage, and then the next turn, if you're hitting the same mon, it takes plus 50. That's really interesting because it doesn't have to be from this. We've got other cards that like do bonus damage on their next attack, but this guy does like it sets the opponent up to take extra damage, which means the opponent probably has to like retreat or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if evolving cancels the effect too, but I have not labbed that. But 50 into 100 is decent. And then 50, even if this thing gets killed, your thing that comes in also does 50 extra damage. The problem is if you kill something with this, then the new thing coming in doesn't take 50 extra, but whatever. It's quite an interesting card. Is it good? Maybe. Greavard. I was very disappointed to see that the new puppy Pokemon in this expansion do not have Puppy Pile. That actually made me pretty mad. I was ready to make a Puppy Pile deck, and now I can't. And Houndstone. The energy cost on this thing is a little too high. I would never run it. The other Houndstone is like incredible, and you can actually make a competitive deck out of it. This one looks like it's just you're paying way too much for too little. I would never run this. Screamtail. This one's pretty funny. Flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, discard your opponent's active Pokemon. So it doesn't say knockout. It says discard. And what that means is the opponent, gets rid of the Pokemon, gets rid of its basic form, and then gets rid of its tool and all that. All that's discarded, but you don't get a point or 2 points or 3 points. And then you also need 1 in 4 odds, so it's still good. If you can remove like a Magnezone with 3 electric energies from the opponent's active spot, force the opponent to discard it, you can make a lot of progress. That being said, 2 flips is a tall order. Even with Will, you have to get a 50-50. And paying a supporter that only has a 50% chance of even doing anything, and then this thing being dead weight, you have to get a 1 in 4 if you don't have Will. It's ugly. So the effect is good, but the chances are too low that it's going to do something useful, I think. You do have to remember it can have 48 extra HP, and it can it can get at least 1 psychic energy on itself using Professor Seda. Fluttermane, another new EX. This one's pretty neat. 2 energies, and on its first attack, it locks you out of all trainer cards. So it's not just items, it's not just supporters, it's not just tools or stadiums, it's all that. Those are all trainers. So it locks you out of a lot of cards. One really interesting thing about this is that let's say you're using like Mega Gardevoir, for example, you can set that up and then put 3 energies, or of your 3 energies that Mega Gardevoir gets from attacking, you can put some of them onto this. And then the next turn, you can switch into this and attack with this. And it locks the opponent out of using Sabrina or Cyrus or something. So even if your Mega Gardevoir is on the bench and has damage on it, the opponent cannot force it in and hit it. So this is an excellent ally for Mega Gardevoir. 2 energies for 70 damage is decent. And then 130 HP, which can go to 170 with the tool, is very good. And then being able to put energies on it is potentially something. Although I think the Ancient, you probably wouldn't run it with the Psychic, the Professor Seda. But it only works with these 2 in this. Then we've got some really good future mons in Psychic. We've got Iron Valiant, which lowers the attack cost of all future mons by 1 colorless, which, I mentioned. And then it can attack in a pinch, you know. Unfortunately, it needs psychic energies. What's funny is theoretically this ability also applies to it. So if there's like a Stoutland in front of you, raising your attack cost by 1 colorless, this thing's ability is then lowering it back to 2 psychic. You know, it's pretty fun. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it's funny that it works like that. The attack on this is basically just obligation. The retreat cost is a little high, but you do have Professor Turo to, you know, theoretically put it back into your deck, deny the opponent a point. This is a really good card for the next 3 we're going to be looking at. They're all. This is designed to support the 3 of them. We got Iron Boulder, Crown, and Leaves. Iron Leaves is if any Pokemon was knocked out by damage from your opponent's last turn, stack does 50 more damage. So it's 100 damage if you just had something lost and 50 otherwise. That's definitely not good for this attack cost. But if you have even a single Iron Valiant on the bench, being able to attack on 2 energies for 50 or 100 damage if you just had something knocked out is pretty good. And if you have 2 of this on the bench, that goes to 1 energy to do 50 or 100 if something was just knocked out, which is quite good. Very decent, actually. And then, you know, also add 20 to all of those if you've got the tool. And then Iron Boulder. This one's pretty neat. The opponent has a Pokemon, or if this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached, this attack does 40 more damage. So if the Pokemon tool, obviously you're going to be running it with booster energy. So it goes from 80 to 140, actually, because you got 20 from the booster energy and 40 from the attack effect. And then theoretically you could run it with like Heavy Helmet or something too, but I think booster energy is the way. And then this 2 attack cost, if it was 1 or 0 because of, or not 1 or 0, if it was this 4 attack cost could go down to 3 or 2 with Iron Valiant. That's what I meant to say. And 2 energies for 140 damage is pretty good. Mega Altaria also supports all these cards if you want to do that, being able to put a lot of energies on them pretty quickly. There's something to this one. This pair is very nice, I think. And then Iron Crown has the really hilarious effect of being able to attack for free if you have 2 Iron Valiants out, or just 1 energy if you only have 1 of them. So theoretically, you could start with this and 2 Iron Valiants in your opening hand and just attack on turn 1. I haven't tried that, but it seems like it would work. And then it does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, so, you know, it depends on what your opponent's got. But theoretically, if they have a baby and something else, this could attack on turn 1 and knock out a baby, as long as it's not a baby alone. So it caps at 70. Not a ton of damage, but you also have the energy to make it 90, or like 70 or 50, depending on, you know, how many bench spawns they have, or 30. All of these have excellent synergy with each other and also with Iron Valiant. Really cool. I like this little idea. I don't know if it's going to be viable, but it's super neat on paper. That's it for Psychic. Knackly. It's a mushroom, straight out of Super Mario. Knackle Stack. Nice and high retreat cost. I was using this for my, what's that, Mon? Golurk deck. You know, I got to put, like, nice high retreat cost Mons on it. And then Garganical. This was revealed in the trailer. 10 HP for each of your Pokemon. If you've got something that gets all of your Pokemon hurt, such as this new card, this healing everyone is kind of cool. But, and theoretically, you could have 2 Garganicals on the bench and they would stack. So Pokemon Checkup is between turns, so this happens, this is 20 HP per cycle, basically. It can attack, but the energy cost is a little high and fighting doesn't have ramp, so, you know, it's kind of annoying. But the HP is good. The HP is very workable. And then theoretically, if this thing gets wounded but not killed, Koraidon can come in and steal all its energies, which is fun. There's merit to this. I don't know if it's actually good. Anyway, that Mon I looked at for exactly 1 second was Great Tusk. 120 HP, which goes up to 160 with the booster energy. And then we've got an attack that's 2 energies. Shaking Stomp. This attack does 20 damage to each of your own benched Pokemon. So you're doing 80 damage to the target and then a bunch of damage to your own Mons. But again, if you have even a single Garganical, it's going to heal over the course of the between turns. And if you have 2 Garganicals, it actually heals instantly, and the opponent can't even like Cyrus you in. You do 20 damage to yourself, and then the both Garganical abilities activate, and you're back to full. So kind of neat synergy, but probably not good at all. This can get a fighting energy thanks to Professor Seda, which is kind of cool. So it can set up, from it can have no energies on it at all, and then get one from your turn energy and one from Professor Zeta. So it can go from bench to instantly active, which is kind of cool. Sandy Shocks, another ancient mon, so up to 140 HP and can put on an extra energy, or even two because it's got two different energy requirement. I don't know if you would ever run fighting plus what. Professor Zeta is a pretty weird card. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot and do 50 damage to the new active Pokemon. So it looks like you can't attack. If the opponent only has an active mon and no bench mons, it looks like this actually just can't do anything. And if the opponent has, you can't hit the same thing repeatedly if they have multiple mons. So it's kind of iffy. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if it's good. Cool idea. Koraidon works exactly like the Miraidon. It can, when you play it, you can put all the energies onto it from your other mons. So this is kind of like it's taking what's that? Passimian EX's ability like onto itself basically. It allows you to preserve the energies really easily. Again, this is an ancient mon, so up to 190 HP and up to or rather, it can put an energy onto itself with Professor Zeta potentially. And then also, you can have one Koraidon out and do one attack, get its 110 damage. And then you can play the other Koraidon and move all those fighting energies to the new one. So there's obviously the other one, you can't get it off the field, so the opponent could potentially Cyrus it. But there's a way to preserve the energies, which is quite nice, which is more than you can say for most fighting stuff. Energies are very precious for the fighting type. So despite this thing's high cost, it actually looks like a pretty damn good card. The attack is interesting. It's kind of not a great attack. 110 is a not very good benchmark at all, especially for 3 energies. But if you consider that the free 3 energies can potentially be basically free, it's a lot better. And then you have a negative effect. It's discard the top card of your deck. It's not ideal. Put it like that. It's the same as Flygon EX for people who ran that last set. That's all we got for fighting. Umbreon confuses the opponent. 50 damage for 2 energies. It's not great. It's not terrible. Sneasel, 10 damage goes up to 30. I think this is pretty good because you got a decent little damage benchmark there, but then also you get guaranteed damage, so you don't have to worry about Weavile EX not getting powered up. And then we have a new regular Weavile. It's identical to the beginning Bolt Jolteon. It's got the same energy cost for the same attack. The problem is that Jolteon could activate on turn 2, or as soon as you played the EV, due to the Boosted Evolution EV. But this one just has, there's no Boosted Evolution Sneasel. So it's not quite as good as Jolteon, but it's good for similar reasons. Being able to, evolve into this on turn 3 is quite strong. Weird little guy here, Sableye. It doesn't do damage. It just puts a random energy to one of your bench mons. So this is energy ramp for any type, but the problem is it's random, so it's useless unless you're powering up a colorless mon. And you have to put an energy on it, so it's not even that good at powering up colorless mons. You could just use a baby to power up a colorless mon already. This has more HP than a baby, but it also needs an energy. So it's not amazing. This thing probably won't get more than 2 attacks off it. It might not even get might not even get 2. I don't think it's playable. I could be completely wrong. We got the Dark-type Pawniard line. This one's pretty good. You can draw it with Lycia, and it's 30 damage for 1 energy. This one's crazy, actually. I was a bit surprised to see a number like this. It's a Stage 1 and a Stage 2 line, but it's got 1 energy for 50. Normally you see 1 energy for 30 in cards like this. The HP is a little low. I think their thought process was that you were probably going to run the Metal-type Bisharp, because it's got the switching out effect on it. Really good synergy there with King Gambit, because King Gambit wants to come in as late as possible. So they needed a good Bisharp card to be competitive with that metal type Bisharp that we got last set. This is playable. The metal one is probably also good. The King Gambit does 40 more damage for each time your Pokemon has been knocked out. Very peculiar wording on this card. It's not how many points that the opponent has, it's how many Mons you've had that have been knocked out. So you could have an EX Mon get knocked out, and that's only a single Mon getting knocked out, so this only does 100 damage. It won't do 140. So that means this card is going to end up being better on no EX decks, which is quite novel, quite interesting. The HP value is pretty decent. You'd probably run it with Cape just for that extra little, push. And then the power is pretty good. You could Rare Candy into this. 2 energies is not super high. And then 60 damage on 2 energies is good, and 100 damage on 2 energies is even better. It's not great as a late game cleaner. Even if you've had like two things knocked out, 140 is not, it's not game winning damage. It is if you can do it twice, and this guy has a lot of HP, so he can probably do it twice. And you can run two King Gambits, you could get both of them active in one game. It's very feasible. Nice synergy with, of all things, Glimora. A weird one for them to make you use together. This Glimmet is nothing. It's a nothing card. But the Glimora is, when it gets knocked out, the opponent gets no points half the time. It's a coin flip. This ability we've seen before on Dusknoir. And this counts as a knockout for the purposes of King Gambit, but it doesn't count as a knockout for the purposes of a point. So running this with King Gambit, you can let this thing die and potentially power up King Gambit more. You could get it to like 180 damage or something like that if you happen to get a heads, or even more if both of your Glimoras happen to get heads. And then the attack is not horrible either. 1 energy for 30 damage. The energy cost is a little high, but you'll probably want this to be an early game mon to die, because its whole ability is just like the opponent not getting a point. You probably wouldn't want to retreat it. You'd probably want it out in the field doing its little venomous hit and then dying. It's its purpose in the deck. Quite a good card and quite good synergy here. Iron Jugulus. This Pokemon. This one's quite interesting. No, this isn't the interesting one. Roaring Moon is the interesting one. This one's okay. It's got a little effect that's the same as Rocky Helmet. If you hit it, you take 20 damage. The attack is not great, though. Lasting Wind. It's a feature mon, so you can bench it for free. Or, damn, shuffle it back into the deck. And then also, it can do up to 20 more damage. 70 goes to 90. The attack cost is still really high. Oh, and what's his face? Iron Valiant works with it, so it can go down to 2 energy cost. I don't think you'd ever... This card does not look amazing to me. I guess it's like an early game stall card, basically, with the potential attacking possibilities. And then we've got Roaring Moon. This one's crazy, actually. Once during your turn, when you put this Pokemon down onto your bench, you may swap out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. So this is Sabrina as a mon, as a basic. And it's not even expensive to retreat. Normally, with a card like this, you would expect it to have a really high retreat cost, like to give you a double-edged reason to like run it in your deck. Obviously, if you're not running it in dark, it can't even attack, and even its attack when you can attack is a little expensive. But being able to play this to have like 2 more Sabrinas in your deck is kind of interesting. Or a Sabrina effect without consuming your supporter is also interesting. I can really see this being snuck into like meta decks. Because it's got ups and downs compared to Sabrina. It's quite novel. Quite a novel card. I don't know what to make of it. I find it really strange that like its ability doesn't mention anything about like anything. It's just purely a Sabrina effect. Nothing to do with it being ancient. If you can get it to 140 HP with the booster energy, that's pretty good. If you can get 2 energies onto it at once with Professor Seda, that's pretty good. There's some merit there. Unfortunately, it's the only ancient Pokemon in Dark. Corviknight. This is a stage 2. Don't forget the order of these little things. The first 2 are normal type, and then this one's steel. It's an alternate evolution on a Corviknight EX deck, I guess. That's the main thing that I get looking at this. In case the opponent has like a lightning type deck with a Oricorio, Pom-Pom, and it's like, well, my Corviknight's going to do nothing, but my Corviknight EX is going to do nothing, but my Corviknight could do some work. You would maybe run one of this alongside like 2 Corviknight EXs in a middle deck. Corviknight EX is such a slept-on card, honestly. I saw like 0 people running it last set, and honestly, the effect is really good and the HP is really good. I don't know why everyone doesn't believe in that thing. Qfant with strength. I looked at this guy and I looked at Caparajah and I was like, wait a sec, I've seen this before. It's Golurk. It's literally Golett and Golurk from Genetic Apex. Now Golett was I think 90 HP, and this is 100, and Golett was 50 damage, and this is 60, and they have the same retreat cost. And then this one, Caparajah, Golurk was 140 HP, I think, and this is 170, but then they've got the same attack to, well, it was 2 Psychic for Golurk, but this one's 2 Metal, and then 2 Colorless. And then also the 4 retreat cost is the same for both of them, too. Different types have different rules associated with them. But I find it funny that these are just like flat upgrades to Golurk, to Psychic type Golurk. Of course, that was a Shipmon, and there's been a little bit of power creep since then, so it makes sense that this kind of card would be buffed. Is it a good card? Probably not. You got better closers for your metal type. Why are you doing? Why are you using Dialga to power this up? It's not even an ancient Pokemon. Come on. Iron Treads. I don't think I've ever looked at this thing. Flip a coin until you get tails. 30 more damage for each heads. I would run that with Will, I guess. And then also you can run it with the tool, so that's 100 damage with a single heads flip. That's okay. The energy cost is kind of pricey. The HP is decent, but you wish it was a little bit higher. I don't know what to make of it. It doesn't look amazing. Altaria with Fly. This one's quite cool. I think it's a little similar to the we had like a Drampa that did something like this earlier. Um, if you get tails, the attack doesn't even do damage. But if you get heads, you do 50, and Altaria can't be hurt the next turn. Obviously, if they have Sabrina or something, they can just still hurt one of your other mons. But being able to block damage is kind of good. I was using this for a little bit. On my little, I was trying to make a deck, of course, with I only had lightning, and I was like, okay, I'll make a Palmot deck with paralysis, and I ran two wills in it, and I was like, oh, I can use the Altaria with the wills. The wills are kind of more beneficial for the Altaria because there's such a stark contrast between when this thing gets its attack off and when it misses. Very frustrating to use. 50 is not a good damage benchmark either. But 100 HP is okay. No weakness is nice. Wonder she cost is good. You know, there's merit here to this little guy. We got another three piece, like the Iron uh, Iron Crown crew right back there. These seem to be intended to be used on a deck with fire, lightning, and water, like a three-color deck. And we'll see another card that kind of benefits from that later on. But this is really pushing the limits of what Seda is for. Seda allows you to put three. Seda has a lot of rules. Maybe we should just go look at it really quick. It's over here somewhere. Touch three different types of energy from your discard pile to your ancient Pokemon in any way you like. So if let's say you discard one lightning energy and nothing else. If you play this, it'll allow you to put that one lightning energy on any ancient Pokemon. And that's that. Now let's say you discard two lightning energies and nothing else. This allows you to attach one lightning energy, and that's it. So it only allows you to attach one energy of any given type, but up to three different types. So if you've discarded a fire and you can use it even with if you haven't discarded three yet. If you've discarded a fire and a lightning, you can attach one fire and one lightning to any ancient Pokemon you like. But if you've discarded two fire and one lightning, you can only do one fire and one lightning when attaching using Seda. And then I also tried if you've had four different types of energies, all of them are in the pool, and you have to pick up to three. So if you've discarded like fire, water, lightning, dark, um, you can only take three of them. You can take any three, but you can only take three. Pretty interesting card. It's basically exactly what you'd expect from the description, but when I read it, I was like, I still have a lot of questions on how this works, and so I had to lab it. Where were we? Anyway, because it works with up to three, you get optimal usage out of it. Even in the worst case scenario, it works like a flame patch, albeit it's a supporter. But you can just run that to get one free energy on one of your ancient mons um, that you've discarded previously, and of energy of any type. Obviously, if you've discarded like four darkness energies, you can only get one of them back. But being able to get that one back is potentially very useful. Still a really good ability to attach two energies at once. Quite surprising. Anyway, all of these have energy discarding effects on them. Discard an energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is better than I initially thought. It doesn't say discard a random energy. It says discard an energy. So even if you're just running it on a Fire Water deck, you can just look down and see what your next energy is going to be, and then discard that energy from this. That's very nice. That gives you a lot of freedom. And then also, this thing can activate very quickly because of that Professor Seda. You can get two different energy. If you're already running a Fire Water deck, you can just get both of them onto this instantly. So obviously, you can run a deck like that with that Iron Moth from earlier. No, Iron Moth. Was it Iron Moth or was it? It was Iron Moth, wasn't it? It wasn't the other one. The other one's not a fire type. It's bug fighting. I lost it. It's gone. It was our one fire type. Yeah, it is Iron Moth. I don't even remember what the other one's called. Slitherwing. Slitherwing's in here, isn't it? I'm sorry. I'm still like acquainting myself with all these new cards. Is there a Slitherwing? It's a grass type. It's the grass type. It's the grass type. Okay, now I remember. Back on the right track. Never mind. Discard everything I said. Disregard. Anyway, 60 damage is quite good. 20 damage to each revenge Pokemon is quite good. And then the HP is quite decent, especially if you consider the tool going up to 150. And then the ability to get the energies on it rapidly is quite good. So everything is actually really strong here, except that discarding effect is kind of annoying. But because you get the energies back easily using Professor Zeta, you don't mind discarding them because you can get up to 3 back anyway. But they have to come from your discard pile. And then we've got this guy, Scorching Interruption. Discard 2 energies. That's quite expensive. And then, hold on. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes minus 30 from... So you've got a defensive boost. So it's like a metal type almost. Up to 150 HP. Can activate in a single turn. The problem is this thing discards so much energy that you need Professor Zeta to get it back, like, you know, to even attack again. So getting the initial 3 energies onto this is either going to take quite a lot of work or your Zeta. And then getting to be able to attack again is going to take another Zeta. Babies can help this, of course, you know. Babies can stick fire and lightning onto stuff. Pretty good effect. Really good effect. Unfortunately, the mitigating damage you take next turn, it does combine well with this thing's really high HP, especially with the booster energy, 150 going to like effectively 180 with the damage reduction. The problem is whether you can attack again is basically entirely based on whether you've got Zeta in hand. So mitigating damage next turn might not even be useful if you can't even do anything next turn. It's very interesting. And then the last one is, it was revealed in the trailer, it's quite crazy. Discard all the energy from this Pokemon, knock out your opponent's active Mon. So even with Zeta, this thing needs like either 2 Zetas, or it needs Zeta just to retreat, basically. You spend however long it takes to get all the energies onto this thing. Of course, if the opponent's using a Mega, this can just one-tap a Mega and you win. The auto knockout effect is quite crazy, you know. I think we've only seen that on Beware before. But that energy cost is very restrictive. Without Zeta, it's really hard to hit this number. And then even then, being forced to discard everything and having the 3 retreat cost is crazy. I guess you could run it with like Lyra. The HP's workable, you know. I think its HP doesn't really... It's kind of inconsequential, really, because it's an endgame mon. You're either gonna win or lose based on like how its endgame plays out. But yeah, even after attacking with this thing, even if you play Zeta the next turn and play your turn energy the next turn, you actually still can't attack. So you need to wait a turn between. But then the booster energy and the, you know, whatever could help you there, I suppose. That's it for those guys. We've got Colorless for the last little bit. Another freaking Eevee, bringing our total to like 10, I think. We've had more Eevee cards than any other card. I don't think we've had this Tail Whip effect. I think we did have one that lowered damage, but I think it didn't prevent attacks. Girafarig, not good at all. And then Farigiraf, 60 damage times the number of heads on 2 flips. Pretty good, actually. Even 60 damage is nice. With a baby, this would be good, but it's, you know, you can do better things with, like, Mantike plus, you know, something to receive energies. Farigiraf probably wouldn't be your first selection. Dunsparce, you would never run this because you'd probably run the Dunsparce from the last set with the Dunsparce. This one's just, it's very forgettable. It's bad. This one, if you evolve into this and then attack, it has to attack. The opponent discards 2 energies. Discarding 2 energies is an absolutely crazy effect. Very good. And then 60 damage is also pretty nice. But that's it. It's just, you know, on the turn that you evolve into this, it's a one and done. And then, you know, you're just doing 2 energies for 60 damage, which is still okay for what it's worth. I think the synergy here is if you've got Celebi or... probably Celebi, probably not a Memory Light. The last set's Dunsparce could shuffle itself back into the deck, I think. And this thing can do that, theoretically. You could attack with Sudden Drilling and move 2 other energies, and then attack with Dunsparce's attack to shuffle itself back into the deck to allow you to draw it and evolve it again. That all sounds like it would take a really long time, though. I don't know how good that's going to be. Got a new Swablu. In order to have a new Altaria, we need a new Swablu. This one's very forgettable. Obviously, you can draw it with Lycia, but you can also draw, I think, the Find a Friend one and the Sing one. You got multiple ways of getting Swablu. You don't need, to run this one. The attack is not great. If you're very lucky, it'll knock out a baby. Rufflet. I don't like 2 energies for 30 damage. I think that's terrible. 70 HP is pretty good. And then Braviary, 20 damage to itself. It is a stage 1 and not a stage 2, but I would rather run Staraptor because you've got the berry support. Staraptor does like what 130 for 3 energies, and then you can attack with 1 energy thanks to berry. I would never run this. I would run Staraptor. With a baby, this might be okay, but babies again can do better things. Halucha, it's I like it. It's not a great card. It's kind of just worse than the Furfru that does 30. It's 1 energy, 80 HP, which is pretty good for an early game basic, and it does 10. And you flip 2 coins, and it's plus 20 for each head, so it's either 10 or 30 or 50. You're averaging 30, and that's the same as Furfru's 1 energy attack. But Furfru also has like similar HP, and then also has the damage mitigation effect of its ability. So it's probably just going to be better. And it's always going to knock out a baby. This will only do it sometimes. So probably not a great card, but, we all love Halucha. And then we got Rookidee. 40 damage on 1 energy, and if you get Tails, it does nothing. I kind of like the one that discards tools. And then Corvusquire, that's pretty bad HP, but pretty good damage. It's playable. If you want to run a Corvusquire, you don't have to, but if you want to run one, you probably could run this one. The Corvusquire also has an attack that removes tools, and that's kind of nice, especially with all the really good tools of this set. Flamigo. This Pokemon does 20 damage to itself. 3 energies on a basic is pretty ugly, and then also a self-damaging effect on a 90 HP mon. But, 80 is a lot, so there's some merit there. And then our final new card of the set, our final new mon of the set, is Terapagos. I didn't think we would be seeing this thing for a while. I actually quite like this mon. It would have been cool if they gave it a unique type, if we had like the 1 stellar type card. But I understand why they just made it colorless. I think it is normal type in the games and just becomes stellar type once it hits the field or something. 3 energies is kind of a lot. 2 energies to retreat is kind of a lot. This is the best use case I've seen so far for Juggler. That seems to be the idea here, is it wants you to use Juggler on it. 20 damage more. 20 more damage for each type of energy attached to this Pokemon. So 3 energies for 80 doesn't sound great, but if you're just doing like 3 lightning, I think it should do 100. Like, just purely for having lightning factored in. It says 20 more damage for each type of energy. So lightning is 1 type of energy. So I guess it's 80 plus 20 for the 1 type. I have not labbed it. I don't know if it's just always doing at least 100. But let's say you got fire and lightning. All of a sudden you've got 2 types. This is doing 120 damage for 3 energies. And then, fire, lightning, water, this is doing 120 damage. What did I say? 140 damage if you got 3 different types on it. And, there doesn't seem to be an upper limit other than the number of types in the game, so you could run like a 5-type deck if you wanted to. It would be difficult. You'd need to use babies and other mons that can you can only run 3 different types on a given deck, so you need to get the other types from Pokemon attacks and stuff like that. Juggler puts, if you've got 3 different 3 different types in play at once, it will put all of them onto your active mon. Like every energy on the field goes into the active mon at once. So that would just allow this guy to set up instantly. So you can just run a single one of it in your deck and use Juggler to activate it. And you could run it in your your gouging fire deck that has 3 different energy types already. You can have this as your closer or something like that. There's merit to it, okay? I don't know if it's good, but there's merit to it. I have not yet done the step-up battle with Terapagos in it, so I don't know what they do. Ancient boost your energy. Plus 40 HP. It's like a Leaf Cape, but better. And then Future Booster Energy. It's like Giovanni. It's like red, but every turn to every target. Absolutely bonkers. This one's really crazy. Really, really, really good tools. The only downside is they're locked to Future and locked to Ancient, so, what can you do? I've never seen anyone discuss this yet. Juliana. I didn't even know she had a name. This is the player character from Scarlet Violet. Put a random stage 2 Pokemon from your deck into your hand. The big thing about stage 2s is they lack consistency. You don't have Sightseer. You do have May. May is something you can use. Maybe you have Serena if it's an EX. that you're trying to draw, or I mean a mega. But like, if you're looking for like a superior, for example, that can be hard to draw. But Juliana allows you to just get your superior instantly. That's really nice. Very very helpful. This is potentially a mom card we'll be seeing on stage 2 decks going forward as a consistency tool. And then Professor Seda and Professor Turo, I've been talking about them the whole video. 3 different types of energy, etc., etc. And then shuffle one of your future Pokemon and play back into your deck. Um, and then our last card is a new stadium. Once during each player's turn, that player may shuffle basic Pokemon from their hand into their deck if they do draw a card. There are a lot of every single Paradox Mon, I think in general, is a basic. I don't remember. Yeah, I think all Paradox Mons don't evolve. So this it's very easy running past your future decks to have just decks that are just a vast majority basic Mons, and this allows you to kind of move them around really well. How many times have you been in a scenario where you have a Pokeball in your hand, but you've already drawn all the basics in your deck? This would allow you to put a basic back into your deck, and then you could just get it back with the Pokeball. For what it's worth, it shuffles the deck after you shuffle the basic mon back in, so it's possible to put a basic back into your deck and then immediately draw it again. Um, but you can do this. This is a stadium, so it just stays active. So you can just do this, every other turn. And there are a lot of cards in this expansion who you want really late. You don't want them right away. So if you have like theoretically a Terapagos sitting in your hand, you'd rather have almost any other card in your deck than the Terapagos in the early game, or like a Koraidon or a Miraidon. They're supposed to come in the late game once you've already kind of had most of the game going. So you can just kind of put them away in the early game with the Area Zero and then potentially get them back later. I really like the idea here. This is quite a novel concept. Like the big thing about basics is the game really you got these like good draw engines for basics, particularly Pokeball, and this gives you something to do with the basics that you draw. Very interesting card. That's it for the new cards. Now we got to look at the full arts. Here's Snom. It's a bunch of them actually. Look at its camouflage. You can't even tell which ones are the icicles and which ones are the Snoms. Flittle in a field. It's on the ground. If you play the games, it floats. This thing is such a weird thing to evolve into a Spathra. Iron Boulder. I guess it's menacing. There's something. Glimora. Very colorful. A lot going on here. Usually with the cards, they're just really busy. I kind of don't like it because you can't really. It's hard to see what's going on with the mon itself. But this one, Glimora is very nicely outlined, so you can see it. And we got all the Glimmets floating around it too, and a few other Glimoras. Um, there was a raid battle with the Glimora, or a Glimmet rather, in Scarlet before you encounter them in game, and I got one a little early because of that, and I used it on my final team, and it is such a fun mon to use. Poison Rock type, really weird. It's quite good though. Anyway, Raging Bolt, great neck, etc. I like him standing up there. We got Halucha. I'm sure that there's like an enemy lying on its back right there, and Halucha's about to land its elbow right on that guy's neck. I'm sure this is a wrestling move. I'm sure he's jumping from the top rope or whatever. Um, cool art. Nice sundown. Reminds me of Kirby Superstar at the end of Revenge of Meta Knight. I don't know. We got Iron Bundle. I actually have this card. It was the first EX I got of this set before I even got a normal EX. I got this freaking 2-star EX. I literally know nothing about Iron Bundle because um, I played Scarlet, which doesn't have it, and then when I played competitive, this thing got banned almost immediately. This thing's like a Uber. Miraidon, he looks kind of cool. I like the future Paradox background these two have. Fluttermane, I like this one. It's nice and smug. I have this one too, actually. I don't even have a regular Koraidon yet. I like Koraidon a lot from the story mode of Scarlet. I didn't play Violet. I'm sure if I played Violet, I would like Miraidon a lot. Terapagos, looking kind of cool. Got all the types on its back. That's fun. Then we got Juliana, Professor Seda, Professor Turo. These are what's that guy's name? Arvin's parents. What's funny is that only one parent is ever mentioned per game, I think. So it's like theoretically, I don't know if the two games are just alternate universes of each other. They seem to be. So theoretically, his dad was fine, but his mom was thrown into the distant past, or his Mom was fine and his dad was thrown into the distant future. But it's kind of funny to imagine that his mom was thrown into the distant past and his dad was thrown into the distant future in like a single timeline. Iron Bundle going down a ski slope. That's kind of fun. Me right on EX doing something. Fluttermane also doing something. It's like swiping with its little ear wings. Caridon roaring. We got a nice futuristic environment here, I guess, and a nice past environment here. And then we got our cinematic, the Tropicos EX, shining, I guess. Relor, I got two of this. I've got two shinies, and they're both freaking shiny Relor with the gold poop. I really hate this mon. I don't hate it for the poop. The poop is okay. I can tolerate that. But I hate this one's face. I do not like Relor's face. It just bothers me. It upsets me looking at Relor. Charcadet, it looks like the normal one. Tadbulb, it looks like the normal one. Rabska, I've only seen Rabska a few times. I forget what it looks like. Diglett, Blue Nose, Dugtrio. We got the Zero Retreat one. I don't think this is the best Dugtrio. Cloth, it's blue. It's one of the better shinies, honestly. Orthworm, it's a good card. Swablu, this is probably one of the best shinies. This is like a top 1% shiny right here. Gold Swablu. Then we got the gold Altaria as well. Miasgrata looks the damn same. Armarouge looks the damn same. Armarouge. Bellybolt is gold. It's kind of cute, I guess. I like it. Mega Altaria, also gold. Looks great. I think the card art undersells how nice this Mon looks. And then we've got two golds, and it's Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon. Quite interesting. I like that the golds are no longer just like the cinematic Mon. These are definitely good cards. I feel like with I feel like oftentimes with the gold cards, they stick it onto a card where they're not really sure how good it is. Am I crazy? That's what it feels like. Like Arboliva, they're like, this could be really good, but we're not really sure. We'll see what people find for it. And then sometimes it is really good. I mean, obviously Flame Patch was going to be good. We all knew that. But like Electricity Generator, is it good? It's kind of good. Will it be used in like 3 sets from now? I have no idea. Maybe. One thing I wasn't paying super close attention to was weaknesses and retreat costs. So I'm just going to do one last little once over to see if I missed anything. See if there's anything that kind of stands out. I did notice that Iron Bundle is weak to electric rather than being weak to metal. They could have gone either way. It's a water ice type. But they did the more common weakness of electric, which is unfortunate for water decks. But you would run it with Excalibur, which is, weak to metal, so you're splitting your weaknesses either way. I was only looking at weaknesses. Let me look at retreat cost too. I went too far. This arrow key is too much for my little pea brain. Nothing interesting yet with the retreats. That being retreating only for one is quite nice. We did have a Palmot that retreated for free, I think. Quite interesting. Heavy helmet support on these two. You wouldn't run it. You would run the booster energy. Every electric mon weak to fighting. Unsurprising. Screamtail weak to dark. That's kind of funny because it's not weak to dark in the games. This is a fairy type, so they could have made it weak to metal. It's fairy psychic, I think. Memory serves. This one's weak to metal, right? Oh, am I right? Are they both fairy psychic type? This one's definitely fairy. No, this one's fairy ghost, isn't it? And this one's fairy psychic. I think that's it. Well, this one being weak to metal is fine. It's a fairy, whatever. Iron Valiant, also a fairy type, I suppose. This one's also fairy psychic, isn't it? No, no, no. This one's fairy fighting, isn't it? I don't remember. It's both. It's got like it combines the types of Gallade and Gardevoir, and it's got a design that's kind of halfway between them too. It's quite a good design. Can't lie. Weak to dark, weak to dark, weak to dark. That makes sense. They're all psychic types in game. Weak to grass, weak to psychic. Great Tusk. They could have gone either way. It's a grass. It's a grass. I mean, frick. It's a fighting ground type. So ground types are usually weak to grass, and fighting types are usually weak to psychic. Nothing super surprising here. Nothing super surprising here. These retreat costs in this set are all so high. I feel like there was a mom with zero retreat, but I wasn't paying super close attention, so I'm just going to do a really fast pass. There no zero retreat mons in the set? Maybe there aren't. Maybe there wasn't. I just passed over it. I don't see anything. Yeah, I guess there aren't. Alright, well, that's everything I have to say about this set. Thanks for watching.